I almost wrecked my marriage. I was unfaithful. I was a dirtbag. I had put her through turmoil, and it crushed me. It crushed me inside because I said, that is not who I am. If you'll take me back, I'm going to change my life and your life, and I'm going to give you a life that you can only imagine. So I made up my mind. And have you ever heard one of the most powerful things in the world is a changed mind? And it was, because I changed mine that day.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Rich Your Soul. Our guest today is Jonathan Berryhill, who went from a broken home and no foundation at 15 to building 500 companies and a 200-acre family legacy. Not by finding the right opportunity, but by making one decision he refused to walk back on.
Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Rich Your Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Rich Your Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richyoursoul.com.
We're at episode 500. When I started Rich Your Soul, I had one conviction. Wealth without everything else doesn't matter. You've got to figure out that harmony of health, time, relationships, purpose, and building it all together, including your spirituality and understanding what that is. I know I've grown tremendously over these years. I hope you have too, and thank you for being with me on this journey. All the experts that we've had have done an amazing job at helping me to be even better. Now let's get to our guest. Most people who say they're going to change their life do not change their life. They change what they say about their life. They set intentions. They pick a start date. They wait for the right conditions. Jonathan Berryhill did not wait. At 15, he had no stable home. At 17, he found faith and the woman who would spend the next 30 years building a life with. In his late 20s, after military and law enforcement and a college football career that started at 25, he nearly destroyed the one thing that mattered most. He made a phone call from Alabama to his wife in Hawaii. He told her, "If you will take me back, I will give you the life you can only imagine." And he's kept that promise. Let's meet him and see how it's done. Welcome to Rich Your Soul, Jonathan Berryhill. It's great to have you join us today.
Glad to be here.
And I'm excited to learn from you. We always like to start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
So, family and school about money, zero. That we were broke. That's what they taught me, that there was no such thing as money. So, I grew up in a broken home. Mom and dad divorced. My dad got in some trouble, did some jail time. And so, there wasn't a lot of money to be seen.
So there weren't, I guess there weren't positive lessons then.
No, positive. The positive lessons I got out of it was don't do that.
Don't do that. Well, that's a good positive lesson, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Did that affect you as you were growing up, like as you got older and so forth, as far as what you could see as possibility or beliefs around what was possible?
So, I pretty much at the age of 15, you started living with friends, my grandparents on and off. I was just floating, drifting, as they say. Then I figured out pretty quick that I was a pretty decent high school football player. I started getting recognition from colleges in the 10th grade, going into the 11th grade. And so that's when I really started checking things out, kind of, hey, what am I going to do? Because I'm about to be done in high school and then there's more in life. So I started looking at, I'm going to play college football. And so I really started building my, identity around that as a young man. And I took it serious. And the problem is we're going into my senior year, halfway through the season, I realized that I was not going to be going to play college football because of my grades. No one pushed me to make good grades. I barely graduated high school. And so the thing that really flipped for me was when I met this young lady named Hannah Stovall, which is my wife of 30 years. And that changed everything. That was the start of my change.
What did she do that caused you to change?
She loved me. She thought I was the greatest thing on earth. And just like I thought she was the greatest thing on earth. We knew each other from the 9th grade. And, I'd asked her out a time or two. But when I was 17, I gave my life to the Lord. And so then she, that turned her eye. She had told me before. I asked her, I said, hey, why haven't you, come and let me date you before then? She goes, I didn't want to date someone that wasn't a Christian. I said, oh, good thing. And so, just having that bond that, I'm from a broken home. And then she had a great family. Her father and mother live on our farm today. We have a house on the backside of our farm that we cut out 3 acres and a house and sold to them. And so seeing that family, his leadership, he's a retired colonel out of the Army. Man, it just gave me this vision that I could have this too. It gave me some hope and some belief.
What drove you to the church?
A fellow friend that was a football player. We were actually during spring training. We were practicing, and he said, "Hey, we've got this revival tonight. Do you want to come?" And just so little past history also. Before my dad got into alcohol and other stuff, he was actually a preacher, and he got into alcohol, which got him into trouble. And next thing you know, he's serving time in jail. So I knew that there was, faith, and I knew there was a God, but I just didn't know the details until he invited me. And I said, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's go.
Just like that, you converted?
Yeah. I walked in that night, and I'm going to tell you that night, when I walked into the church, it changed my life. I could feel something tugging happening the moment I walked in there. And then I started, after I left there and gave my life over to him, I started reading the Bible. I started, doing things, really studying the Word of God.
Impressive. So you're 17, you find God, you find a girlfriend. What happened next?
God and girls, right? What happened next was, once I realized that my football career was not going to go anywhere, then I knew that I needed to do something. I knew I needed to, I'm going to graduate high school here in a few months. My potential college career is gone. I've got this girl that I want to spend the rest of my life with. I thought, and I did. And so her dad's a retired colonel. I didn't want them to not approve of me because of my background and being from a broken home. And I had my family name had some pretty rough, names in the area. So I said, you know what? I'm going to join the military. I know her dad's a retired colonel, so I'm going to join the military. And that's how I'm going to sway him and also show her that I'm serious about, I want to marry her. And off I went to Fort Benning, Georgia.
How did that go? Joining the military? Like, was it everything you expected? I mean, that's a pretty big shift.
Yeah. So not only was it everything I expected and some, there was a lot of things I didn't expect. So, when I went in, I wanted to be a Green Beret, airborne ranger, jump out of airplanes, be a sniper. I wanted to do all the Rambo things. And so I walked into the recruiter and I said, hey, I want to be an infantryman. Where do I start? Of course, he kind of looked at me and smiled real big. I think he thought, oh gosh, this kid don't know what he's getting into. So that's what I enlisted. I enlisted. I wanted to be an infantry guy. Shipped off to Fort Benning, Georgia. Got there about 1:00 in the morning. Drill sergeants, RI, everybody was screaming, "Get off the bus! Get off the bus!" It was a shocker. I'll tell you that.
What did I sign up for? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. You go there, Fort Benning, Georgia, back in the 90s. It was pretty intense. You get there, you don't know when you're going to your unit. So it's kind of like day zero, and you don't know how long day zero's lasting. And so I think ours lasted about 8 days before we actually finally got on cattle trucks, literally cattle trucks, with all of our gear. And they took us to our unit to start day one.
And once you got settled, did it get better or was it more?
It became, I wouldn't say better. It became very intense. We started with about 250 guys in my platoon and or my unit, and we ended up graduating probably about 106 or 112, something like that. We lost over half the guys.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty big dropout rate.
Yeah, it was a pretty big dropout rate. I wouldn't say better, or I wouldn't even say I got, it's just I knew what my mission was. I was good at, you tell me what to do, I can get it done. Give me some structure, I can handle that. Physical fitness wasn't an issue. So, once I got the groove of it, then it was just part of the system.
Did you move up quickly through the ranks?
I did. So, well, not there, but, at boot camp and everything, I went in as an E1. So anyone listening to this, or if you ever read my book, Warrior to Wealth, please, if you're going to enlist in the military, there are things you can do to go in as an E2 or an E3. You can do little bitty things. I went in as an E1. Thank you, Staff Sergeant Dorsey. If you're listening to this, you could have gave me a little insight, but I went in as an E1. And once I left my unit, still boot camp and infantry training and all that, I went in June of 96 to Fort Benning, Georgia. I left there November of 96 to go to Fort Riley, Kansas. Got there as an E1. Exactly 2 years later, I was promoted to E5 sergeant. So I climbed the chain pretty rapidly.
That is pretty big. How long does it usually take to get to sergeant?
I think I read somewhere the other day, the average time for an E5 is about 5 years.
Okay. I don't know the military stuff. So I just know that if you go to college, you get to go in as an officer.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And if you got some college, you can go in as an E3. There's all kinds of different stuff like that. But yeah, so a little bit over 2 years, and whatever my training months were, I became an E5 sergeant. Of course, that was after a deployment as well. After I had done more training, got my expert infantry badge. We were deployed for almost 10 months to Bosnia right after the Bosnian War. We came in to enforce the peace, do Operation Joint Guard. So, yeah, I got married, though, right before that. I got married at 19. I got married at Christmas break, January 17th, 1997.
Okay. So you're deployed, you make sergeant. Life is good at this point, or?
Life's good. I had my woman by my side. Of course, we didn't ever have no money. Every bill that came, paycheck to paycheck, and even less than that, carrying credit card debt, probably a good percentage of, what the norm is, or what I'd say it's not normal. But, that's that. I wouldn't say life was good at that point, but, we were doing well because we were together. We just literally, the financial part was just horrible.
Okay. So what changed?
Well, so, I did a total of 7 years. That includes active duty and some reserves, and I did 1 year of National Guard. While doing the National Guard, and I was back in Alabama, went to police academy to become a law enforcement officer. So I did that for a few years as well. And at the age of about 25 years old, I was tired of living paycheck to paycheck. I wasn't sure how to do it, what to do. My wife and I, we had had some struggles in our marriage during law enforcement. And so what we decided to do was I was going to leave law enforcement. I was going to go back to college at 25 and walk on to play college football. And so I walked on at 25, played linebacker for the University of North Alabama, and rushed and got my degree in biology and chemistry, pre-med, and was going to go to medical school, but decided to get into sales because we found out we were pregnant with our third child. We had 3 children, a daughter, a son, and then we found out we had another son on the way. So I buckled down and said, hey, I've got to go get a job. And so I got in a medical sales arena, and that's where, my financial position started changing.
They get paid well in the right position. You get paid very well.
You get paid good, especially if you're accomplishing. Sales is just like, you got to sell stuff. You got to move stuff. You got to move things. And so, that was a big part of it. And I figured that out real quick.
What type of products were they?
I dabbled some in surgical at first, and I did not like being in an OR. So I quickly got out of that because I couldn't stand in a room with no windows all day long. It was not for me. So I got into external medical devices such as prosthetic limbs, medical device, bone growth stimulators, knee braces, back braces, stuff like that. And I'm actually still in that business today, but I got into that and started that. Within a few years, became the chief operations officer of this company. While doing this, I was building my belief in myself. I was building the faith and, everything that I knew that I was capable of doing. And so it was actually, I made a first 6-figure income as in the sales, and man, I was excited. And so I've always had this dream put in my head right when I started about, once I met the owner of the business, of what it would be like to be the owner of a business, like be a business owner. So it always stuck in the back of my head. Well, I took that leap of faith at about 29 years old. I'd been working for him for about 3.5 years. And I asked him, the owner, he was the CEO president, could I take a leap of faith out and do this little side business? It wouldn't harm anything. And of course, he allowed me to, and that was the change of everything.
Was business ownership everything you dreamed it to be?
It was pretty fulfilling, but it was also, there's a lot of things that they don't tell you about, and that's rent's due every day.
Yeah,
you got to pay people.
Payroll.
That's right. That's right.
And
you're the last one. You're the last one to get paid.
You're the last one to get paid unless you make sure you pay yourself first.
That's right.
And
yes.
You set up the systems and processes, and you build the business to do what a business is supposed to do, which is make money. Most business owners don't seem to know that, but eventually they learn it at some point.
I agree with you.
So what kind of shift in identity came with walking away from a 6-figure job to starting your own business?
So, overcoming a broken marriage, overcoming the military, law enforcement, college football, I got this warrior mentality that I can do anything. I can do whatever I set my mind to. I was reading books. I was listening to audio tapes. And so, I was pouring into my head that, hey, I am capable, because, coming out of the high school stuff, I was already broken and wasn't sure what I was capable of. But now I had this belief system in me that, hey, I can do this. I can accomplish these things. And so, that it just shifted and gave me that faith that, hey, I'm going to take this leap of faith, but I know I'm going to be able to do it. I didn't have no doubt I wasn't going to.
Where did that come from? That lack of doubt? Because most people do doubt their ability to accomplish some of those things.
I guess it came from, intense training, belief, seeing myself accomplish these things. Everyone's accomplished something. You get up in the morning, you make your bed, get up in the morning and, do some push-ups, start your day off accomplishing something. I always say, and being thankful for stuff. So I think that's where it came from. I'm pretty sure it's where it came from. It just gave me this, I'm not going to fail. Number one, in the military, if we fail, we die. And so I didn't want that, in my head. So, I just had this mentality that, I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to fail. And so I told my wife, and she agreed. And so I took that leap of faith, and it's been good. And within 3 years, I sold my first business for a nice chunk of change. Went to work for that guy, the company out of Carlsbad, California. Worked for them as a consultant, and also got ownership in the big company. And I worked for them for about 7 years. While I was doing this, I started other businesses on the side.
Yeah. Now, how is the relationship with the wife at this point?
Great.
Okay.
My wife and I are best friends. We're literally going to dinner tonight in Nashville with some friends of ours that are coming in out of town.
Okay. I meant during that time when you were working.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Now I know everything's wonderful.
That's
It always
right.
turned
That's right.
out that way.
Yeah, it still requires work and stuff, just like anything. If I quit working in
Yeah.
business, I'm gonna look at getting paid. So, in the beginning of the startup business, there was some pretty deep sacrifice of me putting some time in and some effort and thoughts and stuff. And I realized that pretty quick. So I had to create a balance, and I had to create this person inside me that was intentional with my time, whether it was with her, with my children, or with the business. And so intentionality is so big. And I try to, push that and preach that to everyone that, comes to me for advice is, put your phone down when you're having dinner with your wife, put your phone down if you're with your kids, and be intentional with them, because quality time it trumps quantity time. I can be with someone when in the same room for 12 hours and not say two words to them, or I can spend 30 minutes with someone and it feels like we were together, all evening.
And that's true. So at this point, life is pretty good. You've created the success. The businesses are doing well.
Yeah, life was good. We bought a farm. We built a house. We kept buying up our farm. Our farm now is over 200 acres. We have 4 houses on the farm. One's my in-laws. They bought it, the 3 acres. But we have 3 houses. And my daughter and her husband live there. My son and his wife live there. And then we still have 4 in the house. But yeah, life was good. We were building. I had this gentleman talk me into running for state senate. I ran for senate for when I was 39 years old. I'm 48 now. I ran for senate. I think I'm at 38. But anyway, ran for senate, did that, did not get elected. And I'm not upset I didn't, but I'm not, sad that I didn't either. Because I've heard, I was number one in the political arena. I just wanted to be able to help. I had 6 children. I wanted to be able to leave my children a legacy. And it taught me a lesson that, hey, I get to leave them a legacy by building this business, creating our farm, creating an environment. My son worked for us. My daughter worked for us. My daughter-in-law worked for us. My son-in-law worked for us. And so, it's a family ordeal.
That doesn't always happen, in that the kids have their own interests. Was that just luck that they happen to have interests that fit the business, or was there something else that kind of came to be?
We homeschooled our children.
Okay.
And so we still do. We have still 2 still being homeschooled. My oldest son, he went and played college football, and we encouraged him. Do what you love. Find something that you're passionate about. Get out there, spread your wings. We gave him a foundation. We felt good about that. We raised him up in a good home, a loving home. And so he moved off. He lived in Memphis, Tennessee for 2 years. Then he entered the transfer portal and went to Western Carolina University, the Catamounts. Beautiful up there in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And so we were not convinced he was going to come home, because he was telling us all these things and he wanted to do. He got married. His wife got pregnant. And I get a phone call one day. This was actually March 2. That'd be 2 years ago this past March. Hey, Dad, I'm going to be done in May, and I want to come home. I want to live on the farm, and I want to join the family businesses if you'll have me. And of course, I'm like, absolutely. I would love to have you come. And so before that, my oldest daughter, Mabel, she's 26. She's about to have our 4th grandson now. We got 3. We're going to have, this will be our 4th. She was already working for one of the businesses. She had gotten married, and her husband was working somewhere else, and his hours were horrible, and she wasn't seeing him a lot. And I was like, hey, I don't want to force this up on you, Kelton, but we have a job opening, and if you want to apply for it and come, and so he did. And it was actually, he worked on our farm full time. I needed a ranch manager. My ranch manager had left me to become a full-time farrier. And so we hired him. He worked there on the farm, and now he works in a healthcare company. He runs it, actually. He's the VP of it.
Okay. How many companies do you run?
So I have 5 companies. We have a government contracting business, a healthcare company, which focuses on medical device, DME. durable medical equipment. And then I have 3 real estate brokerages. And if you count the farm, that's a 6th one. But, we raise quarter horses and sell and do performance horses and reining and cutting.
How do you have time to run all those businesses?
I have good staff. I have a good team. We have good team members. We pour into them. We give them lots of good benefits, and I can't do it by myself. So it's just like in the military. We have battle buddies, we have squads, we have platoons, and so it's the same deal. We try to create an environment that people want to be in. I've had employees work for me since I've started. That was 18 years ago.
You mentioned homeschooling. So your kids were homeschooled all the way through?
Yes.
So you did this back in the day because COVID shifted the world. All of a sudden, homeschooling took off post-COVID when people realized what was actually happening in a classroom.
That's right.
It has dramatically shifted the way the world is when it comes to education, at least for those who are smart enough to notice.
Yeah, we homeschooled from the beginning. We always say we homeschooled when it wasn't cool. People harassed us, and they would say just some of the most goofy things that I can imagine. And so I would just laugh. Our kids, they've been all over the world with us. We have traveled to 20 something different countries, and they've got to experience that. We would travel when everybody's in school so we could hit, we'd go to Disney World when school would start up in September, October, when the lines were low. And they've got to meet some amazing people in the businesses and political arenas, working in DC and stuff like that. And we took them with us. They've got to see the country. It's been amazing. I'm a big proponent of homeschool,
And it has shifted in that more and more people are doing it now. And with the advent of the internet and online learning, I think people think you have to be the teacher. You don't. The entire world is your teacher. Just create the opportunities to learn from all of those different places. And it's funny because actually, did you use a classical education curriculum or just?
My wife did, and don't ask me all the details of it because she used 2 or 3 different ones, but she did.
Okay. Here's the funny thing. We've come out in the world of AI. And I was just having this conversation with a business owner. They're like, I need to hire an assistant and I need someone who knows how to get stuff done and work with AI, but I don't know how to find somebody because it's so new. We started talking about education, and I'm like, people who are classically educated have learned how to learn. They know how to have a conversation and how to figure things out. And now they've got this powerful tool called AI. And when you put those two together, you've got people who can accomplish anything now. They've been taught how to do that. And I think that's the major difference. They're not told what to think. They're told how to think. And that's really what makes a great partner with an AI system, because now you can do amazing things quickly. This episode of Richer Soul is sponsored by the Profit Answer Man podcast. If you're a business owner who wants to scale and grow, increase profits, or want to have strategic conversations around your financials, then check out the podcast. You'll learn how to work less, increase cash flow, increase profits, and build reserves to help you weather storms. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must-listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. Do you use a lot of AI in your businesses?
Yes, especially in our real estate brokerages. So, we use it to help create listing descriptions. Yes, we use it a lot. I know my assistants and social media team, they use it for social media. They use it for a number of things. But yes, we do. And I may have said classical. I meant not classical. My wife used I remember now, it was Charlotte Mason. Have you ever heard of that?
I am not familiar with that one. There's
Charlotte.
so many systems
Yeah,
out there.
the Charlotte Mason curriculum. It wasn't a classical one.
Okay.
Sorry, but
That's okay.
But yeah, so AI, we do use that a lot. And but going back to what we were talking about with my kids is, I think the reason my kids, they got to see me start businesses, and I think they got, like my son, we just started a new business not too long ago, and he's heading it up. And I've got two of my other kids that are wanting to start businesses as well. So they've got to come up in this environment and see the fruits of all the work and stuff. Plus, being homeschooled and being intentional, we created a bunch of buddies. That my four sons were like, they were my hunting buddies, my fishing buddies, and they still are. And so not only are they my buddies, they're my best friends, and so it's been awesome.
Well, and you also get a chance as a family to connect.
That's right.
And you don't have so many, you are the average of the 5 people around you. In your case,
right.
You got to control the 5.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yes, absolutely.
Versus playing roulette with who's your kid know and who's in the class with you, and
right.
What does that look like?
Absolutely.
So you're working now on releasing the book, correct? Warrior
That's
to
right.
Wealth?
Warrior to Wealth. Yep. JohnBerryhill.com.
What does that mean?
Warrior to Wealth. And a lot of people say wealth, money. No, it's not what it means. Now, although we have been blessed to be financially stable and have money and have a farm and, a vacation home and stuff like that. And we're thankful, but those are just materialistic things. There's a lot of people with money that are unhappy. Warrior to Wealth was, using my past to create my identity to who I am today, and showing others and giving others hope and inspiration that, laser focus on what you want in life, but also keeping in mind the ones you love and the ones you want to be around the most. So Warrior to Wealth to me was going from who I was to where I am now, but having the ones that I love closest with me and spending the most time with them.
Was there a period in time when that occurred during your journey, or is that more of a recent type of a change?
No, it's been it's evolved into that. So when I first started, like I was telling you, the business, I first started, the first few years was a lot of grinding and a lot of time sacrifice, and I realized, I was like, wait, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sacrifice all my time, and so fast forward, I've evolved into this person where wealth to me is time freedom, getting to spend time with the ones that I love the most. But it's also financial freedom. I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. And so I created, avenues to where I could do that. And, and that's, being an entrepreneur, creating those opportunities for others to be able to have a job. At the same time, it rewarded me, and I created this, what I consider wealth today. And that's, again, life on my own terms.
Do you feel a lot of people are stuck and they struggle to do what you did?
I don't know if they struggle to do what I did, because there's people doing what I did plus more and beyond. I think where people struggle is, they get consumed with thinking and talking about something, and they forget that it needs action. You got to put some action behind those words. And a lot of people have dreams and stuff, but there's no belief system, or there's no vision. And they never put any action behind it. And so, if you're dreaming of a life, I always tell folks, you can live the life you focus on. You just got to keep your eyes on it and start putting actions.
That first step tends to be the hardest.
Yeah, it is. It's like jumping in the pool or anything like that. Once you get in, then you kind of warm up to it. You're like, oh, the shock's off now.
But you, throughout your life, it doesn't sound like you had trouble with that first step. Like you made decisions and took action, or does that just sound good on the way looking backward?
I think some of it sounds good on the way back. The first leap of faith was probably the hardest. Leaving guaranteed paycheck. That was probably the toughest one. Not that I didn't believe in myself, but it's because I was comfortable. And comfortable, as we know, is the number one killer to any kind of success or any kind of change. And so, I once I figured that out, then it got easier and easier.
It took me a long time to figure that one out. Like when you're comfortable,
Oh yeah.
it is really it's a killer of going for better.
Yeah, I agree. It's a killer of dreams. We get so comfortable and we get comfortable in all aspects of life. It's not just business, finance. It could be relationship with your marriage, your kids. It could be your health. I get too comfortable sometimes eating too good and not doing enough exercise.
Do you talk about how to break out of that comfort zone?
I talk a little bit about it in the Word of Wealth book, and it's about rebuilding your identity, creating little small discipline actions each and every day. I think a lot of the reasons so many people fail at sticking New Year's resolutions. I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna work out. I think instead of just either jumping all in, let's start with 3 and let's add 3 and let's get good at those, and then let's add 3 more. Because anything more than 3, a list of goals or a list of, then it becomes a list. It's not really goals. It's a list. Now we got a list of stuff. So I always tell folks, when they're wanting to change, number 1, focus, laser focus. And then number 2, start building your identity by creating these little actions of discipline that you need to get to where you want to go.
And that's the key. Create the discipline and continue to do the work. And most people don't do that.
Yeah. It's easy to be comfortable. It's easy to just be where you are and stay where you are. Even if it's a bad environment, I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but I used to see that in law enforcement all the time, is people in some of the worst environments, and they were comfortable being uncomfortable and they didn't realize it. And I was just like, gosh. And so a lot of my experience, again, the warrior side, that's where it's come from, is I'm not going to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
And that's the key. And there's certain psychological things to this that I noticed a lot in the fitness space. Like people would say, I'm going to the gym. And instead of saying, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times this week, they're like, I'm going to the gym 6 times this week. And it's like, okay, you don't go to the gym. Now you're going to go 6. You miss 1 day and they give up. They're like,
It's done.
The week's shot.
It's
I'm like,
done. Yeah.
well, 5 is still okay.
Yeah.
Like you went, and yet it's human nature. And I think that's the key for people. Just keep showing up. And it's more important to show up than it is to worry about, did you do 6? Like set a reasonable goal. Yeah. And I don't know why people set unreasonable goals that become very difficult to hit. That's not to say you can't keep increasing the goal. You move the goalposts, but get yourself in the habit first and make it a way of life. And then you can say, okay, I'm going 3 times a week. Now I'm going to do 4. Now I'm going to do 5. Now I'm going to do 6. That's cool. But people tend to just.
Yeah, it's disciplinary type actions, just like as an entrepreneur, you have to show up to the office every day, whether your office is your kitchen table. So many people will start businesses, and the discipline to just even show up for their own business, they can't do it. But then if they have to clock in somewhere, they can do that because they're being made to, because of that, the paycheck tied to it. And so it's neat in one way to see a lot of the things that I've got to see over the years with, guys and gals that I've helped and mentored to create their own business, and to see them succeeding well. And then some of them that just, they just resorted back because of, they couldn't even show up. Some real estate agents couldn't even show up and make 3 phone calls in a morning.
What's the difference between those 2 people?
That's a tough one. I think they're so uncomfortable with how they are that they finally just decide, you know what, I'm going to make this change. And so, I think that's what it is. You have to be so uncomfortable and tired of it to where, you see the vision and you just run for it, and you don't stop. You don't give up. And I tell a lot of times, I think some of the reasons I've succeeded in some of the businesses is because I was the last person standing.
The truth is, that's usually what causes the win. Just the
Yeah.
fact that you're the last person standing, that you
Yeah.
had the stamina to go to the distance when everyone else just slowly gave up. And I don't know what to do about that. I I think I've given up on trying to fix it. And I'm just like, I'm only gonna I'm kind of going the opposite way. I'm gonna put a couple tripwires down. And if you can get over those and show up, then we'll talk. But if you
Yeah.
can't get over those and show up, I'm not going to waste my time either. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can look at a lot of businesses. I mean, you can look at, look at one of the biggest ones out there right now. I mean, Amazon. I mean, what he started in '94, and it took him, I think, 9 years to get a profit. 9 years. you know, I mean, that's something to think about. One of the biggest companies out there. It took them 9 years. Are you willing to put in 2 years? Of whatever it is.
If you go watch his movie, he was extremely intentional in what he
Mm-hmm.
was building. Like he picked the market. He
Mm-hmm.
he actually did the math to say, is this going to be an opportunity? Is this the best opportunity for me? He took
Mm-hmm.
that time to actually do all of that work.
Oh
And he
yeah.
persevered through a whole lot of problems.
Oh
And yeah, now he makes
yeah.
money. But he was also a smart guy to begin with. So it's not like, he
Yeah.
was. And there were a lot of doubters, just like you had doubters. We all have doubters.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get over them and continue to push through and see what happens.
Yep. There's always going to be though that that just fall back on the comfortness and listen. I tell folks if that makes you happy, there's nothing wrong with that. But the folks that really, really, want to make a difference, I believe everyone's capable of getting out there and changing. I always like to say changing your stars. And so, that's what I did. And so I know if I can do it, anyone can do it. That's the way my mentality was in the military. If this guy got through that training, become a Green Beret, I can do it.
No, I agree with you. What is your hope for the book? What are you hoping will come out of it?
My hope is that it inspires someone. It inspires someone. It gives them hope. I know there's a lot of other young men in broken homes or on their own at 15, 16 years old, or maybe it's ex-military, ex-law enforcement, ex-athlete. Maybe it's just someone, or even, where it doesn't have to be just a man, but maybe it's just someone that reads the book and says, today is the day. Today's the day my marriage gets right. Today's the day my fatherhood gets right. Today's the day my finances is going to change. Today is that day. That's what I want to get out of the book. And not only that, I want my grandsons to read and see what their Papa John went through and has done to give them the Berryhill farms, the legacy that I hope and continue to work hard for to leave them.
Were there certain turning points in your life that gave you the fuel to push through?
Yes. My wife, my children, my grandchildren. Like I told you earlier, I almost wrecked my marriage. I was unfaithful. I was a dirtbag. And once I realized I was about to end up the same way my dad had, but in a different way, because I was in law enforcement, he was getting in trouble by the law. I knew that I had to fix that. And I had put her through turmoil, and it crushed me. It crushed me inside because I said, that is not who I am. I am a good person. And so I called her, she was in Hawaii visiting her sister, great place to visit. And so I said, if you'll take me back, I'm going to change my life and your life, and I'm going to give you a life that you can only imagine. And so I made up my mind. And have you ever heard one of the most powerful things in the world is a changed mind? And it was, because I changed mine that day. I was not going back.
Well, a lot of people say that, but they don't deliver. You
Yeah,
delivered.
I was uncomfortable. I did not like being that person. And there's a lot of people out there that, maybe they hear this or maybe they read the book when it comes out in July or August. So we're shooting for mid-July, but maybe they're just, they're uncomfortable and they said, you know what, I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to be this person. This is not who I am.
And then you have to make the change and go do it.
and keep doing it over and over and over.
That sounds hard.
Yeah. Hey, it's hard being broke and it's hard building wealth. Pick your hard. That's in the book.
And that's almost, I think is that a military thing? I know that pick your hard comes from somewhere.
It's a saying that, you hear in military. I mean, I've heard it a number of times. I've heard it in both collegiate athletes when I played college football. I've heard it in some professional athletes. It's hard showing up at practice. It's hard getting up in the morning. It's also hard getting your tail whooped out there on the field, or getting defeated. So pick your hard, and so that's always resonated with me. Yeah, it was hard living paycheck to paycheck. And, I just remembered, like, gosh, I hate balancing a checkbook. I hated that. And because the end result was always horrible. So, but you know what? It is also hard getting out there, being disciplined, getting up early in the mornings, planning my day, making sure that I accomplish those goals set before me. So pick your hard, but also know this, that the results of, what you're dreaming of and the vision is way better than, if you're in a bad situation.
No, that's true. And everything compounds. So, going one direction or the other will compound. I find that it takes a while for compounding to start showing you results, because in the beginning, it doesn't look very different.
Right.
But the longer you do it, the separation really starts to grow. Like, I'm noticing that today with my health and my age. I'm starting to notice, oh, wow, all those things I was doing, it didn't look like there was much difference going on. But now that I'm getting older, there's a massive divergence. I'm aging gracefully and healthfully, and a lot of other people aren't. But it's because I showed up and I did the work, and you don't always notice it up front. Yeah. So it's a little bit, sometimes it's demotivating, but you just have to keep going. Mm-hmm. And as long as you have the right path and the right decisions, I think that's the key. I'm sure you've seen the same thing in business. A lot of times it was hard, but when you stick to it over time, the businesses grow.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the result of our actions? When we decide to do something, is that result, is it going to be a great outcome or a bad outcome? And so, again, what you're saying was, you're being intentional with what you're putting in your body. We're being intentional of what we do with our bodies. And the compound pounding, it's not the first hit of the piñata that busted. It's the continuation of hitting that pops it. And then, I told this story the other day at a group. I said, take a penny and double it every day for 30 days, 1 cent, then 2 cents, then 4 cents, then 8 cents. You think, 30 days, you're not going to have that much. It's $5.3 million at the end of 30 days off 1 cent of just compound pounding. And so that's life. The more good you're putting in there, the end result is going to be good.
Do you know how much you lose if you wait 1 day to start?
Oh, yeah. I don't know the total. What is that? I guess let's see. What? Go ahead, tell me.
It's half of the last day.
Okay.
So if it's 5.3 million, it's 2.65 million you lose because you waited a day.
Oh, wow.
You lose another day, it's another 1.3 million, another day, and you lose another 600,000. Add those up, you might not even be at $1 million at that point.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, that's good.
And that is what happens when you say on Friday, I'll get to it Monday, and you forget.
Yeah.
You give up the end. And that, the people can't see is the end, what you're actually giving. Because if you never had it, you can't miss it. And you can't see what that end looks like. But when you do the work and you realize it, you're like, whoa. Because in the beginning, it's like, well, if I wait till Monday, it's 8 cents. Who cares? It's not 8 cents. It was $4 million.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. I've been my wife will tell you that I'm always like, I hate when I don't like I'm going to start Monday, or I'm going to start. No, you know what? Start right now. Start today. You want to diet and it's 2:00 in the evening, start eating healthy right now. Don't wait till tomorrow morning. Let's go. Let's do
Tomorrow
it.
never comes, right?
That's right. Yeah,
I
that's
use
right.
that with my kids. My kids are, can I get this? I'm like, tomorrow. They come the next day. I said tomorrow.
That's it. That's good.
That's when it's good.
I'll have to use that one.
It always works. Is there anything we should have touched on that we didn't get a chance to?
I've got a website where people can go and put their email in. They'll get little drip campaigns from me talking about the book. It's johnberryhill.com, JONBERRYHILL.com. They can also follow me on social media. On that website it has my social media links. Going to be releasing the book. The goal is July. I about got it wrapped up. I'm really just finishing some edits and stuff. I've been reading through it again. So I'm really excited to launch that, and with the hopes to, someone gets inspired and it changes their lives because they saw that, hey, intentionality, creating your identity, the 5 pillars are identity, discipline, financial stability, time freedom, and, your standards you have, shapes who you're going to be and the legacy you're going to leave. And so, come follow along and get after it. That's the main thing. johnberryhill.com.
It's time to learn the secrets of life.
What's one truth about success you wish more people understood?
That everyone's success is different and it's not just about money.
No, and you have to define your success, or you're going to be living someone else's dream that you may or may not like.
That is right.
What's a lesson that cost you a lot but was worth every penny?
A lesson that cost me a lot but was worth every penny. I would say taking the leap of faith in starting up businesses. I haven't been successful at every one. I'd like to say I have, but there's been one in general that I lost about $80,000 on, and I don't regret it. I made some great interactions. I got a lot of great knowledge out of it.
And that's true. It's an experiment.
Yeah,
Experiments always teach you something.
Sometimes an experience too.
Sometimes an experience. If you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
I would say think hard and tell me who you want to be when you're 35 years old. And what do you see? What's your success look like? A family, a finance, what's your identity? And then I would say start becoming that person today. What would that person do right now? And who would they be hanging around with? I asked this one young lady that worked for me last year. She was talking about her friends, and she was talking about becoming this, she wants to be a super successful woman. And I said, let me ask you a question. The friends you're hanging around today, would you take them around the CEO of, the largest company in the world? Or would you bring them around me? Oh, no. I wouldn't want you to meet this. I said, then why are you hanging around them? Because if you're going to be the CEO of this company, and you don't want your friends today to be around those people because that's not the friends you need to be around, then why are you hanging around them today?
You got to get them to think. And
become the person you want to believe. Become the person you want to be starting today.
That's what it's all about. And it is today, right? We keep saying that.
That's right. It is today.
If they want to get the book, remind them again where they can find that.
johnberryhill.com, JONBERRYHILL.com. You can put your email in. I'll keep you up to date on when it's going to be released, and then you'll be able to buy it on site and other places my publisher puts it.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, Rocky.
Jonathan used the phrase, pick your hard. It's hard being broke. It's hard building wealth. It's hard staying in a broken marriage. It's hard doing the work to save one. Every path costs something. What changes in what you are building toward? What's your hard? We hit 500 episodes. That's kind of hard sometimes. Wasn't the easy way to do it. I do it out of a labor of love, and I enjoy it. Check out Jonathan's work if you want to. If you know someone else who would appreciate this episode, share it with them. You can always find me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week. Here's to 500 more.